Welcome to the Whole Marketer podcast, where we look at the holistic skills and behaviours, the technical skills, soft and human, leadership skills, and personal understanding that marketers need to grow the brands and businesses of tomorrow. I'm Abby Dixon, your host, author and founder of The Whole Marketer, and director of our marketing capability and transformation consultancy, where we work with passionate marketing leaders to provide the clarity, support, empowerment, and inspiration needed to build successful and fulfilled marketing teams. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today's podcast is an area of leadership and also human skills. It's diversity of thought and how we can build diversity through our thoughts and thinking in our teams. And shortly welcome today's guest, Mark Stringer, or Stringy, onto the podcast. But before I do, let's talk about the benefits of building teams with diversity of thinking and thought. There are so many benefits of building diverse teams, from making best decisions to stronger creative and output. When we intentionally build teams with diversity of thinking, we bring together individuals with different skill sets, different past lived experiences, different ways of thinking, approaching cultural differences, knowledge, and much, much more. When you combine this with psychological safety, we create environments with a healthy level of challenge that ultimately deliver results and create a better team environment, as we know that when people feel that they can openly share, express, and grow within their roles, the motivation levels increase. As marketers, it also helps us reduce blind spots with our audiences. Our role as marketers is to identify, anticipate, and satisfy those wants and needs of consumers and customers, but we're often not that customer or consumer. By building diversity of thought within a team, it can help us not only connect better with some audiences, but also allow healthy challenge when we can look at potentially our own biases that we're sharing or lack of cultural understanding, differences, assumptions that we may hold that aren't actually rooted in true insight or reflective of that audience. This, along with the benefit of bringing diversity into our industry to stretch our thinking, make sure that we aren't all clones of each other, is why I wanted to discuss diversity of teams and thinking today. Today's guest is Mark Stringer, or Strings. He's the entrepreneurial force and founder of PrettyGreen, with over 30 years of founding and leading successful ventures. Strings is a seasoned expert in building brands and driving innovation. He's founder and chair of PrettyGreen and is renowned for helping create long-term fame and fortune for brands. His focus with the agency now is Plus Ventures, which incubates and acquires new founder-led companies who are looking to both scale and have new ventures. Alongside this, he's also focused on building proprietary AI products and teams within agencies. Following a strong reputation of brand growth in his early career, Strings founded PrettyGreen in 2008, when Red Bull gave him wings and established the agency within their office. Under his leadership, PrettyGreen and its sister agency, The Producers, have served prestigious clients worldwide, including Cadbury, Under Armour, Lego, Audible, Hasbro, Nando's, to name but a few. He is also co-founder and non-exec CMO of the B Corp, SkootEco, a modular ESG business that uses its proprietary MARC framework to enable businesses to make a positive impact today. Beyond his entrepreneurial ventures, Strings loves innovation, business development, and has founded Metropolitan Spirits, a globally distributed portfolio of absinthe and La Maison Fontaine. With a proven track record of founding and scaling businesses, Strings' entrepreneurial spirit continues to drive innovation and positive change in industries, ranging from marketing to sustainability. Across all of these ventures, Mark has built teams from the ground up. And the reason why I wanted to get on today's podcast to discuss the diversity of thought. So Mark, aka Strings, welcome to the Whole Marketer podcast.
Morning, Abby. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I'm happy to have you here.
Well, it's lovely to be here. The sun is shining. I can hear the birds in the background. You know, what better way to start my day than talking to you?
What a better way indeed. As you know, we always start with a big juicy question, and today is a really big juicy question, which is, what is diversity of thought to you?
What I realized, I suppose fairly early on, is that I needed difference. I needed different thinking. And in marketing, you know, fundamentally, you can end up with the same ideas, the same thought process, if you surround yourself with the same people, the mirror image of you. And I think marketing teams, brand teams, agencies, there is a tendency sometimes to be clones of each other. So I've gone out of my way over the years to try and find people who complement me. And maybe that's enlightened self-interest. Maybe that helps me, the agency, the businesses I'm involved in, go further. But for me, that diversity of thought is different. It's counter to the way that you think. And that can be in a number of different ways. The speed that you make decisions, the risk profile, the creativity, backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, that diversity is the difference, the complementary sort of skill set and thought process that gets you the best ideas and the best marketing campaigns and the best sort of business leaders.
And that desire for difference, where did that come from?
I wish I was a creative. I have realized I am not a creative. And when you work with true creatives, their brains work differently. They dolphin think, they come up over here when you're, come up with an idea for a man leaving work. Black cab pulls up. Give me an idea of a man leaving work. The spaceship arrives. I'm like, geez, where did you get to a spaceship? We didn't say Earth. You didn't. And I think that sort of type of diversity of thinking, the true creatives, the true planners, the true strategists, finance, whatever, across the spectrum, you realize that true brilliance of marketing campaigns or leadership comes from different, but it comes from what I believe is having trust in the difference. Because as soon as someone says, oh, I've got an idea for a spaceship, and you don't trust them, you don't believe in them, you don't think they're particularly good, that idea gets killed. Oh, that's rubbish. In your head, you might not say it. Let's build on that. In your brain, you're thinking, I don't trust it. I don't think they're that good. So for me, in that sense of getting the best work out the door, the best teams, you kind of realize that you do need different. And I know that more probably when I founded my own agency, back in 2008, although I'd built teams and big teams and scale businesses, there was an aha moment of when I realized that I needed someone who loved doing all the things that I didn't. And then you realize that it's not giving people the bad jobs. It's finding people who really love the difference, who love doing what you don't want to do. And that's what happened for me probably, 20 odd years ago. But that thought that I needed people who loved to do what I didn't want to do to enable me to do the things I absolutely love, to make work not feel like work, and to get to the place where, you're doing the thing that probably only you can do better than anyone else.
There's a few things that you said there that resonate. I think the first is finding people that are passionate about the thing that you're not. Point you made around work not feeling like work. Work doesn't feel like work. If you are passionate about that topic, subject, area, it's your zone of genius. When you're doing it, you're in your flow. So finding others who feel like that about other areas that you don't. And also finding difference of thinking and ways of thinking and skill sets and the way in which they approach things to make sure you arrive at better work. But also all of that needs to come with that kind of psychological safety amongst the team to share that idea, to build on someone else's idea, to think about how something else could be done, to challenge someone's biases or thinking that they have, to make sure we are building to better work or work that is more reflective of what our consumers or customers want. And I think for me, almost like those three things, almost like building a Venn diagram, are needed to have that diversity of thought. There's the recruitment of the individual, there's a psychological safety, and there's that kind of knowing what everyone's zone of genius is so we can play to each of those as a team.
And I think for me that I was introduced to Thomas International and Disc Profile, I don't know, must be 25 years ago, 20 odd years ago. And for me, that was a bit of a light bulb moment that we were different. And I liken it to thinking about people with phobias. I cannot understand why someone, is scared of bananas, right? Or balloons, or, spiders are a bit easier. But phobias, it's really interesting. Even people with phobias go, I don't know why they're like this. And it's so alien to us. We cannot imagine what it must be like to be scared of something that for us is very, very normal. And for me, that was like disc profiles. The way that someone thinks, what their fears and their motivations are, why are they scared? Why do they crave security or avoid conflict or, crave public praise and recognition or want to win, and et cetera, et cetera. And when I likened it to that, having a phobia, that I cannot understand why someone can't just be like me. Everyone else is just weird. I'm the only normal one in the room. And in thinking in that way and then understanding that they're not weird. They just think very differently. They are hardwired differently to me, and I can't make them like me. And actually, I don't really want them to be like me. But understanding that difference enabled me to go, okay, you love, process, and you love to work a bit slower, and you need to think about things. Oh, you just want to win. In understanding that dynamic of finding the difference in the complementary skill sets for me was really, really powerful, because it meant that I realized their strength was my weakness, or the thing that I didn't want to do. So for a long time, I built what I'd call cogs and tap dancers, because I'm a tap dancer. I want to go out there and hunt, but I needed harvesters. I needed people who actually, when you do bring the work in or bring the project in, whatever it is, you need people who make it look amazing and deliver it. And in 2008, Red Bull said, come in, hang out with us. Do you want to set a business up? Do you want to set an agency up? I was like, I'm not sure I want to. I don't know what I want to do, but I don't think I want to do an agency. And in the end, I said, it's a pretty compelling proposition. And the MD and the comms director say, look, take your time, but when you're ready, we'll give you the work, set the business up. And that was fine. But I realized that meant doing finance, operations, finding an office, all those things. And Wendy, my wife, who we'd worked with in a previous life, I was like, I don't suppose you want to do like finance, operations, find an office, like all the things that I don't want to do. And she was like, okay, I'll help you out. And that was that moment where I went, wow, she loved doing that. And that for me was like a brilliant sort of, partnership at home, partnership in the office. And I've gone out of my way over the years to find those people in my life who I trust implicitly, who offer something that I don't. And whether it's Jess Hargreaves, or Jess Ponchat, JP, who we've worked together for the 25 years probably now, in that exact difference of we bring something to each other. I bring chaos, if I'm honest, and she brings calm. But, I think in life you find these people through work and different ways, any partnership. And it can be, I remember back to being 22 and finding those partnerships. It's not about seniority. It's about finding work partnerships and life partnerships who bring the difference to make you get further ahead.
As I'm listening to you, the word trust comes through time and time again around, yes, there's the complementary skills and bringing people in to do the things that you don't enjoy in the early years, but also that you trust them implicitly, trust them to deliver, trust them to do those things that they are really good at, so that you can almost embrace your own zone of genius. And I think as I'm listening to you talk about coming in, it's that rebel situation. It's almost like someone identified your skill set and your strengths, but with that, you realized actually this needs a complementary partner in order to make this really come to life. And I wonder, as you've built teams over the years, from that kind of early days of you setting up in the Red Bull agency, bringing in your real life wife in to partner with you to the building the teams that you have today, what impact and benefit you've seen as you've brought each different person in with different diversity of thoughts and skills and perspectives and different walks of life and lived experience that they can bring to the table has brought the briefs, the work that you do in the day-to-day?
Well, I slightly changing the answer to this and then coming to that. I asked a number of people recently, over the last 6 months or a year, why is it that you've continued to work with me? And it's a really interesting question that we don't ask. I'm not a creative. I'm not a strategist. I back me and I will win, but I'm not the best at anything. I'm probably more tenacious and more driven than most. So I asked the question, if I'm not brilliant at all these things, why do you sort of come to me? Why I'm your go-to? And the word that came back is because I trust you, Strings. Because you won't BS me. You'll see both sides of the argument. You won't sell to me. You'll solve my problems and you'll make them go away. And you'll do it in a way that will be really respectful, and you'll push and you'll push and you'll push me and you'll call it in a room and it will be uncomfortable, but you'll do the same with your team. And I think that is probably the single-minded thing as to why we work with people internally, externally. So for me, what I realized was I needed to surround myself with people that I trusted so that I have this mantra of get out of the room, because if I'm in the room and it's just me in the room, I can't get into the next room and the next thing. And being this constantly busy, like incredibly sort of obsessive person, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I need to get out of a room. Otherwise I slow everything down. I can't deliver. So for me, it was finding people that I could pass the baton to and get out of the room. And that meant trusting people, and therefore finding people that I could trust to get out the room and get into the next one and onto the next project. And I think that's the benefit. When you trust people, you can let go, but you also know that they'll tell you when there's a problem. And that's the challenge, when people hold on and they don't tell you and it's going pear-shaped, and then suddenly someone's calling you in going, Strings, did you know this is really going to like down the pan? And you just wish someone had picked up the phone, because together you can solve the problem. So that trust piece isn't just about, I know they'll just go away. Oh, they've sought it. They won't inform you or involve you. Those are brilliant people. They know when to bring you in. They know the value that you'll bring, and they don't try and hide you from the problem. Make sure that the problems are very open to everyone. But that collective spirit that we are stronger together when we need to be, and we know the roles that we play. And that's something that I think Jess is so good at. And, why I love working with her is the demarcation of roles. What's the jobs to be done, and what's your superpower, and what's the accountability? And therefore everyone can get on. But it's not straightforward. Of course it isn't. You have to, like any partnership, any relationship, you have to work on it all the time.
Yeah, it's a constant working process. And I think, as you were mentioning there, it takes trust, but it also takes honesty and vulnerability, and the knowing that you're all working towards a common goal, which is to create great work, create a great environment to create that work. And I think that commonality and clarity of the goal, and the clarity around the roles, and making sure those roles don't just sit in a job title, but sit in the space, as you mentioned there, the work that you were saying that Jess does, which is marry someone's skills and zone of genius with the projects that need to be done, so that we are harnessing their thinking, their experience, their past knowledge and perspective to the brief, to the work that needs to be done. And I think, as I'm listening to you, Strings, there's a real theme here around your own journey that you've gone on, around understanding that you need other people's skill sets initially to complement you, and then to build to build that diversity of thinking, but also the journey you've been on about understanding DISC and how that works within teams. And, you know, I do love personality profiling tools. I think they are great for exactly as you described, being able to understand why people think in different ways. It allows you to understand how you can communicate with them better. It gives us a common language, common tool. But for me, they're more around kind of identifying the type of onion you are, whether you know you're a shallot or a red onion or a white onion. But what they are at the start for me, because actually it's about when you cut that person or cut that onion in half, what's at the core of who they are? Where did that onion grow? What are those lived experiences? You know, how can they be utilized? What is their motivations, their passions, their beliefs, their purpose, their values? When you understand that and you can connect the work that they're doing at that level, it becomes even deeper, even deeper.
Yeah, and I think you're so right, because when you look at teams across divisions and companies, you know, client side, agent side, doesn't really matter. But what you do is you immediately have this bias, you know, conscious and unconscious bias about, well, they're not creative because they're not in the studio, right? So, and they're in finance and they're X, Y, Z. So, but you're not looking at their learned experience. You're not looking at, and I say this about the finance department that we had at one point. We had the most creative people in the finance department. One was a photographer, one was a script writer, like a paid script writer on, you know, for plays and TV, but they're in finance. So you wouldn't think to go and talk to them about creative briefs, because we forget their learned experience. And therefore, you know, what we're doing is sort of downplaying the quality and the brilliance of the people that we're often surrounded with to draw upon. And I think that is, you know, something that we need to do more of to get the best out of the company, to get it working as the best team, is to think about who might be the right people to work on these projects, whatever they are. And I think for me, that's always been something that I've looked at. Who are the best people for the project? You know, who do you want to surround yourself by? And that becomes really, really exciting, to be honest, as you scale, as you do different things.
As I'm listening to you, it's also making me think about a story around the importance of having people that truly understand the person that we're trying to connect to. As you just said there, we bring our own past lived experiences. You know, as you just said, Wigan, you know, I've got a friend who's from Wigan, and that's the first place I go to. Does that nationally represent all the people in Wigan? No. Do I need to maybe bring other diversity of thought into that brief, into that room, outside, inside the office, outside the office, to work on that brief, to really make sure we truly understand, you know, how we're going to connect with the people in this situation, you know, from Wigan? Because we have biases, we have our own perceptions, we have, you know, the heuristics around that group of individuals, and we can be blindsided or miss obvious things if we don't have that true representation. And it makes me think of an example of an organization I was doing some work with that had built some consumer personas. And in these personas, they'd done that thing where we add an image that represents this group. And they added an image of someone of color, and someone else of color in that room called out and said, that person would never be called that. There wouldn't be their interest. This would be this would be that. And it made me think a few things. One, wonderful that you've spoken up, that you don't feel this is reflective of the cultural differences. Two, why was she/others not involved sooner, so that we could have had that representation? But also psychological safety to speak up in that room full of other marketers and, as you say, call it out, so that we can get to a better place and create better work and do better. Because we work and live and everything in between in diverse worlds. And sometimes that person we're trying to connect with isn't us. And it's being able to acknowledge that. Or if we are working, as you mentioned there, in a team, being able to say, that's not reflective. I don't think that's the right way. I think we need to bring in such and such. We need to reflect whose roles and what strengths. And I don't think we do that enough. And I think that trust and psychological safety, for me, is the common theme going across everything we've discussed so far, in order to create those environments where we can build diverse teams.
And it was something that we've spent a lot of time, and I think, you know, the Black Lives Matter, you know, we've always said, you know, my belief has always been, I just want the best people for the job. And, like to think that I'm colorblind and like to think those, that I just want to connect with people and create that emotional connection, because I think marketing fundamentally is about creating emotional connections between brands and people. That's our job. So we should have a brilliant antenna for connecting. Otherwise, why are you in marketing? So in my mind, partly I was always of the belief that I just want to recruit great people, and you want the best people. And then you look around the agency and it's all white. And you're going, well, we've sort of said that we just want diversity and we want this kind of approach. Something's going wrong. Like, what is the thing going wrong? And that was where we were the first people to be involved with Brixton Finishing School, one of the first agencies with Ali. And, really have been championing a lot around that. Yet when we looked internally, we weren't writing some of those issues. And then we went on and this was driven by Jess and people like Shiraz from People Like Us, and then creating a D&I board. So we had a board that sits and meets. And actually, yes, we'd have no gender pay gap, but what about we doing on diversity? Because we were working and have worked, for Nando's, we did 14 years. And then you look at the people who are working on that, and are they representative, or working on hair product that is for sort of Afro hair, and you're like, well, we don't have anyone on the team, so how are we responding?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that classic, agency team working on sanitary products for women, and it's all men. And I think that's the kind of, you have to force it through. You have to force the change, because we're in privileged positions. We have to make the change happen.
Did you know that The Whole Marketer is not only a podcast and book, but also a marketing capability and transformation consultancy, with trusted partners to many leading household brands, empowering their marketers with the holistic skills and behaviours through our training courses, workshops and leadership programs, providing support and fulfilment through coaching, mentoring and our trusted advisor work, and providing inspiration through our talks and keynotes. We work with passionate marketing leaders, helping them define and gain that all-important clarity through vision setting and strategy development. Through our capability consultancy, we define the future role of marketing, define the required skills and behaviours, the ways of working, infrastructure, processes and much, much more to ensure your team are able to deliver against that future role aspiration. We partner with you through each stage of the transformation journey to step change not only your team's capabilities, but also to empower those marketeers in your care to lead that long-term commercial agenda and deliver on the true potential of marketing. So if you're a passionate marketer or marketing leader who wants to develop themselves and the marketeers in their care holistically to help them not only be successful in what they do, but also fulfilled, then we're here to help. Find out more at thewholemarketer.com. Right, let's get back to that conversation. So those that are listening to you, Strings, thinking, yes, I want to make that part of the fabric. I want to build teams that aren't clones of myself. I'm listening to the podcast thinking, yes, I agree about all the benefits it brings to society, to the work that we do, representation, do all of the above. What advice would you give, almost as if they were setting out today, from somebody who has built an organization and businesses, have become Sunday Times best places to work? What advice would you give about where they should start in building those teams?
I think the first thing you have to do is think about you. So what's your superpower? What's the one thing that you bring that's better than anyone else? If you can understand you and you can back you with confidence, and we're all, racked with insecurities, even the most confident people. But if you can think about you and what you bring and what you do and what you're good at, and then you can think about, well, what else do I need? What do I need to surround myself with to make you better? And then identify what I call the tap dancers and cogs and the partnerships and the pairing. And then you can look at the cross function of your team or departments, however you do it, and go, what's missing? What is it that would make us better as a team, as an organization? Because I'm playing this role and I need this team that can do more of X, Y, Z. And when you can do that and you can articulate it collectively, whether it's to an HR person, whether it's to your boss, whether it's to a leadership team, doesn't matter. You then begin to build really powerful clusters of teams, whether, they say that the perfect team is 6. But if you think about those teams, you get something incredibly powerful because you get units of absolute strength that are bound together to deliver holistic tasks with amazing trust. And I think the reality is, in my experience, it's never been about this hierarchical sort of situation. It's been about partnerships. It's been about finding people that want to work together to solve amazing marketing problems or business challenges, and that work to deliver such phenomenal work. And you need people who are visionaries. You need people who are operators. You need people who are fearless.
What's really important there is knowing your strengths and knowing your areas of development, or things where you need somebody else to challenge your thinking or stress test your thinking. And I really like what you talked about there around, if you've got a massive department, actually think about those teams or individuals and who they work with the most. And are they complementing each other's skill set? Or is there a skill set that's missing, or a thought process that's missing, or a type of thinking that's missing, or a cultural background or upbringing that's missing, that's going to allow enough of a diversity of thinking within that team in order to have the healthy challenge to get to a better outcome.
And I think, building that team and building complementary skill sets, it is back to the trust piece. And it's about politics, if I'm honest. So one of the things that happens, and I really, really believe this, that if you want to talk about me, right? Talk about me and complain about, I'm no saint, because only then can I know how to modify my behavior and how I got it wrong. And that's difficult to talk to someone who's quite senior in that way. But I talk about it on all levels. There's something, I don't know what it is, but have you spoken to Abby? No. Okay. So what are you going to do about it? I don't know. Okay. If you're not going to do something about it, then you're creating politics, because sometimes people can't have that conversation. But if you can't nip it in the bud, you have a culture of politics and BS going on every time someone goes out for a drink. And it's going to happen. But I believe that kind of more forward, proactive approach of, look, we just need to work together and we'll all get it wrong. You've got to be humble about it. You've got to understand, as long as it comes from a good place, we get it wrong as much as we get it right. We make mistakes in building teams, in making decisions all day. And what we need to do is just understand that it's work in progress. And together we'll get through it. On our own, we're bound to fail.
I think entering into those conversations from a space of humility is really important as well, which is, this is how I'm feeling. Help me to understand. When you do this, this is how it's making me feel. So it's more not about that person being wrong about what they're necessarily doing, but just the impact it's having on you, which ultimately helps build the self-awareness of that individual, but also what works and what doesn't work for you, and maybe some personal reflection about why that does and doesn't work for you. Maybe what it triggers, maybe past lived experiences, maybe it gives you some signposts around what you do need. But those conversations are really important, because, as you say, that's the foundation. Those conversations of vulnerability, humility, trusting in that individual, showing that you're committed to continuing to work with that individual by overcoming these issues, are all of those micro actions that we take to building really successful, fulfilled teams.
Yeah, I think I have a thought that winning an argument loses you the business. And I think that's the kind of, it's easy to win an argument, but you lose a client or you lose the respect of the team. And I talk about, I'm not going to die in a ditch. I'm going to go home and see my kids. There's something about, I'm incredibly passionate about every business I'm involved in and what I do. But there's a point at which you have to step back and go, and the point is what? What actually are we trying to do here? I just love work. And it doesn't feel like work because I love the people. I love this vocation of marketing and creativity. So, I have an absolute love and have found something to get paid doing something that doesn't feel like work. It's a gift to be in that position, but there's a point at which you have to let go. Hence the reason why I send lots of emails going, can I send this? Can I do this? Like strings. have some perspective. This is not important, but it's not easy. And it's not easy as you get more senior because you have an opinion on everything, right? You have an opinion on everything. It's not needed. It doesn't matter. Let go. It's not easy because we're driven to have opinions about everything, but learn when that opinion is, keep it in your head. Don't say it.
Yeah, but also it's that shadow and light thing. It's like, you know, your light is quite clearly that you're driven and that you are passionate about the work that you do and solving problems. The shadow is sometimes you do it too much and maybe it feels to others that you are stepping on toes or your help's not needed. But embracing both sides of that, I think, is really important. It's the shadow and the light that makes it a super strength.
That's why thinking about you, thinking about what you are, what drives you, what your values are, but also the negative. And I describe myself, I'm like a nuclear reactor. It is a relentless energy that doesn't run out. And I don't get tired. And I just am like some like Labrador puppy, just relentless energy to solve problems, get involved. Oh, this is amazing. But that nuclear power plant can absolutely, you know, get the China syndrome, and before long it's giving people 3 heads and 15 arms, and it's destructive. And knowing when that power is good or bad, the dark and light, I'd employ everyone to think about the positive energy that you bring and the negative energy and how you show up, and how as you become more senior, you walk into the office and you're in that negative space because, you know, some emails just dropped that's quite monumental, and you walk in quite that negative space. The most junior person who walks up to you and says morning, and you're like, "Arr," they just thought they're about to get fired. Like, no, you were just in a bad mood. But I think the ripple effect that we can have can be quite profound. And it's difficult sometimes to think about that because you just think, oh, I was just in a bad mood, or I was just thinking about something else. I was a bit snappy. I think as you go through your career and you change and your role changes and the pressure can feel different, I think always reflecting on, have you got the people around you who can call you out, that can have a conversation? Can I just have a word strings? I think is really powerful. There's all too many people in life as they become more senior, either become godlike status that no one's prepared to call them on something, challenge them. And I don't think that's a good place. You know, we can't always be right. It's just not possible. So, you know, we have to seek counsel from, you know, people who can make us better. If you look at it in that way, just do it in this way. So, you know, I have a business coach for that very reason, who challenges me and gives me a tough time. And I have peers, people like Joel, you know, Craig, you know, mates who call me on things. You're like, nah, that's not the thing to do. And, you know, you've got to surround yourself with diversity of people to make you better if you want to be better. If you don't, more fool you.
Yeah, it's really important that you surround those people that are honest with you. And as I often say in those situations, like as you said, that ripple impact that you create when you're in a negative headspace, I always say it's the explanation, not the excuse. So it's like the explanation that you are stressed because of that email that's landed, but it's not the excuse as to why you behave in a certain way. And I think sometimes if we can think about our behaviors, yes, maybe that's why we behaved in a certain way, but that's not necessarily the right thing to do. And owning that, as you say, well, all works in progress, take those learnings, have people around you that can speak to you honestly and give you feedback, because it helps us grow. It helps us grow. On that point of grow, we've come to the point in the podcast where I'm going to ask you very shortly what your career highs and grows are. But first of all, I want to thank you for your time so far on today's podcast, for sharing around the journey that you've been on as you built teams from the ground up, where it was 1, then 2, then 3, to the businesses that you lead today, and the important messages around the trust, the difference that we need within teams, the humility that we need to have on our own self journey and discovery, and that we are all works in progress on that process of building ourselves, our own journeys of building our personal understanding, whilst we're building teams that ultimately have that diversity of thought to get to a better place. So strings, career highs and grows, let's have them.
The highs, I always say as marketeers, when you see a piece of work that you've done and you say, I did that, I still have that same sense. I just don't say it. I just think it. But I think every time that I see work that the team have done that I haven't touched, that I haven't been involved in, Peppa Pig, I know nothing. I did not touch a single thing on that Peppa Pig campaign. I didn't know anything about it. But to see a team be able to deliver the most incredible campaign that, I've helped incubate in a way of just creating a foundation for the team to do life-defining work that they, people, that is always a high, and it doesn't stop. When I see people grow, when I see teams, when I see the clients that I'm working with just do incredible work, and I've had a small part to play in that I did that. And I didn't. I was a part of it. And that, when I see the work and I see the people, that is incredibly rewarding, more than what I do, if that makes sense. It's about seeing the teams, such a high. So the grows, when it's going wrong and when it's going wrong and it's hideous and you want the world to swallow you up and disappear, put your Kevlar vest on, get in the trench and try and make a difference, because the problem might not go away. But I tell you what, it feels great thinking that you might be able to make it go away. No one else is going to solve the problem, but there's something about trying to solve it and thinking you're making the difference and being in control actually is really good, because you feel like you can work your way out of it, as they say, walking through, hell, just keep walking. And I know that's a very common phrase, but you have to not die in a ditch. You have to just keep going. And I've had in my career more failures and more lows than I could ever think were possible. But you do become stronger from it. And when you can laugh at it, when you can look back, those scars, those battle-worn things that you've done, because you tried to make a difference. And I think that's what I'd always say to everyone. Just get stuck in and look back and laugh, because often it wasn't as bad as you thought, but, it feels hideous at the time.
Indeed. And we always finish the podcast with the following question. What one piece of advice would you give to marketers of tomorrow?
The one piece of advice I'd give marketers of tomorrow is I still believe that this is the best industry and the best job in the world, to get paid to do the most phenomenal things that people only dream of. And what I'd say is just, whether you're a marketeer today or a marketeer tomorrow, lean in to the fundamental change that is sweeping through the industry in so many different ways. Grab it by the horns, get in the trench and be the difference, because it's the most exciting time, I believe, to be in the industry. More exciting than it's ever been. The biggest change brings the biggest opportunities. If you lean into it, you will see your career, the industry change beyond belief to do the things that have never been done before. And isn't that the opportunity that we want as marketeers, to do the things that we've never done before? Lean in, get excited. And if you're not excited, who is?
I couldn't agree more. And Mark Strings, thank you again for your time on today's podcast.
Pleasure, Abby.
Thank you for tuning into the Whole Marketer podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do like, follow and share with others in our marketing community, so that we can create a wave of whole marketers who are successful, fulfilled in their careers and lives as a whole. To further inspire you on latest thinking, marketing approaches and technical skills, we have plenty of free resources on our website, including a marketing competency review and the changes of the skills required within our profession. To further inspire you on impactful and authentic leadership, and soft, or as we say, human skills and behaviours, we have plenty of free resources on our website, including a workbook on how to find your authentic leadership style, as well as our 7-step assessment where you can reflect on whether you have the pillars in place in order to lead successful and fulfilled marketing teams. To download these, simply visit the resources page on the Whole Marketer website. Plus, you'll also find a full range of our services that outline how we partner with marketing leaders to build teams of successful and fulfilled marketers who are supported and empowered to grow the brands and businesses of tomorrow, to lead the long-term commercial agenda and deliver on the true potential of marketing.